Well, guys, not the way we wanted to end the year, and yet as I reflect on our play, I thought we had a very good week of preparation to go to the GLI. I liked the mindset that our team had, and I thought we played a lot of really good minutes of hockey there. Pucks went in too easily in certain situations and didn't allow us to make the kinds of plays that we needed at the critical times to win the games. And scoring's been an issue. Obviously, our special teams, our penalty kill has really struggled, and we're spending a ton of time on that, looking at personnel, scheme. I think we can do a better job blocking shots, and I think we can do a better job of stopping the puck, too, in the net. I think a combination of all those has to be the solution to improve our play there, and that's got to get way better than it is because it's really negatively affecting our team. It did against Western Michigan, obviously, and it did in our two games with Minnesota as well as our game with Northeastern. 5-on-5, I thought we were, or even strength, thought we were real good in those games. And in fact, in the two games in the GLI, we had more shooting attempts than in my time here. I think we had 83 attempts. To give you some context, we're usually probably in the 60s. I think Northeastern had 43 against us shooting attempts. Against Western, we had 83. And against Michigan, we had 113. 113. And so I guess I'm looking at that as a good sign that we're getting, we're developing more of that shooter's mentality. We're getting to the scoring areas. We hit some goal posts. We're starting to think, shoot more. We're getting more shots through to the net. I thought both goalies played real well in those two games for our opposition. And both teams blocked a lot of shots, too. I think Western had 19 blocks, Michigan had 25 blocks. So we've got to bear down and score. And I think that can change the dynamics of the outcomes of these games. So the attitude of our team is good. Obviously, we're going through a tough stretch, but I like how we're approaching every day in practice. Good energy, good intensity, lots of physicality. Again, for the majority of the play in those two games, we liked how we played. We just thought we gave up goals on mistakes that we made just too easy, and didn't quite overcome that the second night, even though it was a good way to come back. So anyway, with that, what you got?
Tom, it looked like in the third period or maybe on the second night, you changed your lines a little bit. You put Kudarenko down to another line and Sleba up with Appleton. Is that a possibility for this week, or that's something you're looking at?
Yeah, I think, when you go through a stretch like we're going through, even though we think there's a lot of our game that we really like and we think is really developing, you have to keep looking at your personnel and whether it's line combinations or defense pairings, and especially, or in addition to our specialty teams, to see what might work better. And so we tried in the first half of the year to identify some line combinations and be very patient with it, given the inexperience of our group. We wanted them to have time to kind of grow together. I think in some instances we're seeing that, but I think in other instances we want to try some different things. So there's a chance that will take place. We'll see during the course of the week in practice. But I did like the change and how it impacted the play and the games, or the game in particular on Friday.
Because in the third period, you guys generated offense on almost like you had an all game in terms of getting pucks toward the net and then finishing.
Yeah, Neil, I thought if you go back and we've watched those games back multiple times, and you look, at our shot chart and so on, we generated a ton of chances both nights. I was shaking my head after the first period of the Western Michigan game, walking back thinking, I can't believe we're down 2 goals.
I know.
You know, we gave up, I thought, 2 pretty easy goals. And yet I thought we carried the play and we carried possession. And, statistics can be misleading. And so we're careful to look at them, but they also are indicators as to whether you're on the right track and doing some things or you're not, And we had a lot of attempts from good scoring areas, and we've got to convert more.
And they were probably led by possession because it seemed like you had a lot of good
A
possession.
lot of possession in both games. They were led. We like where the possession is tracking. We are possessing the puck more. I think we're doing a better job in the offensive zone with some movement. We do have to find ways to get more and more shots to the net through traffic. I thought Western was really tough to penetrate all the shot blocking they did, and at the same time, I thought Michigan blocked a lot of shots. Now, much like we did the last couple of years, we blocked a ton of shots. Part of the reasons you're blocking a lot of shots is you don't have possession, So you got to kind of dig into those statistics to see what they're telling you. But we like the trending we're seeing in our possession in all 3 zones. I think we're moving the puck out of our zone better. We're not spending a ton of time in our defensive zone. Our neutral zone, I think we're doing a pretty decent job overall, but we gave up a couple goals. One shorthanded against Western Michigan where we didn't react correctly in a neutral zone transition. Mason Appleton came across the ice. We had some poor ice balance. They went back and scored, on a kind of a counterattack. We were shorthanded. And then Michigan's, I think it was their second goal. Their first goal, we just made a bad read. We've got a 3-on-1. We're shorthanded, and we get 2 defensemen that go to the net. And now they come back on a 3-on-1. And in spite of that, the puck hits the goalpost. We just didn't pick up somebody who was right there on the way back. So, again, our margin for error right now has not been very high. Mistakes have cost us goals, and we're not taking advantage of that on the other side, converting mistakes into goals. The good news on that side of the puck is that the chances are there. So you're scratching your head when you're not getting chances, and you're really concerned. At least we're getting the chances, and the chances are growing. They're growing in all different ways, off the rush, in offensive zone possession, off face-offs. Those are all positive signs. I'm excited about those things. We got to convert them.
Tom, you talk about stats that were misleading, and just kind of going off what you're talking about here, this GLI having a lot of opportunities. Wisconsin is the team that generates a lot of shots on goal, according to stats at least, and then similar goals allowed. Do you feel like your team maybe is getting more comfortable? And I don't want to say like shootouts or high-scoring games, but it seems like that's the way it's almost trending a bit.
Well, we haven't scored those numbers with consistency. I'd love to be able to score 4 or 5 goals a night, with a level of consistency. Now, I could tell you if we can do a job of generating the kind of chances that we did the past few games, I think the puck's eventually going to go into the net. I really do. But having said that, I don't want to have a goals against average, where ours is at. We've got to bring that down. And a lot of those goals in the last 5 games have come while we're shorthanded. But nevertheless, they're goals against. So we've got to improve our defensive play, especially in shorthanded situations.
Just looking back to the schedule, too, the North Dakota weekend was already more than a month ago. And I know you might have said, and a couple of the guys said, they feel like that was could potentially be a turning point, kind of getting over a hump thing. I'm just wondering, you talk about how much you improve and all that over the time. I'm sure you didn't expect to go 0-5 in the next 5.
No.
Kind of what your disappointment level is.
Well, my disappointment level's high. It is because I liked how our game was tracking, and that's a bit of the frustrating part. I do believe there's a lot of our game that we really like, and is continuing to get better. But again, I think we've given up too many. I'm kind of generalizing when I say that, too many easy goals, too many goals that are going in the net too easily. When I say that, I'm not pointing a finger at goaltending. I'm pointing a finger at mistakes that we make that we shouldn't be making. It might be we need a save here. It might be we didn't pick up the right guy or make the right play on the right guy, and it's costing us. And we've got to get over that hump to get results. So, like I said, I think the important thing is, and the good news is, our energy level, our focus, our togetherness, and I think the quality of most of our game continues to be high. We got to push to get results, and we've got to push to clean up those defensive lapses that right now are costing us games.
Tom, you guys went 3-1 against Wisconsin last year, it looks like, and just coming into this year, I know that Granado took over their program. From what you've seen on film, what you've seen of them so far, are you expecting a much different style of play from them, or kind of similar to last year?
Yeah, I wouldn't say a much different style per se. I think they're a better team than they were a year ago, just based on experience. You know, they're a team that I keep going back a few years ago. They've been in this cycle where they had a very upper class based team, and they won the Big Ten playoff or tournament championship. They were an NCAA team, and I thought their team was good enough to win the national championship that year. And then they had huge numbers of losses, and so 2 years ago they were playing 10, 11 freshmen. Last year they were still young. This year, and they were talented kids, but they were just young. This year they have more experience. And they added some good players to their mix. So I think they're a improved team over last year, although I don't think necessarily their style of play. I'm sure there are differences, that we've seen, and I'm sure that they're preaching. And yet I think fundamentally there's a lot of similarities.
And Mason, of course, returning to his home state on a real hot streak for this series this weekend. Through his recruitment process, was there any did he always know he wanted to go to here over Wisconsin, or did they come after him pretty hard?
Yeah, they came after him pretty hard, actually. I won't bore you with the long story here. I'll try to give you the short story. I was hospitalized with a reaction to a medical procedure that I had, and they weren't going to let me out of the hospital, and he was here on his recruiting visit. And I was doing an outpatient thing that went bad for me, and I had a reaction to it, and I was in the hospital all night, and I said, I don't care what you guys do with me. I have this prospect here, and I have to be in my office by 9 o'clock in the morning. So I got here, and the doctors looked at me like, that's not going to happen. And I said, well, it has to happen. We have to figure that out. And anyway, it happened. I got here at 9 o'clock in the morning, and he had spent the majority of his time the previous evening, which I was supposed to go to dinner with him and stuff, and I couldn't because of this reaction with Tom Newton. And the first thing I said to him was, listen, Wisconsin's recruiting you, and we're recruiting you, amongst other schools. Are you serious about Michigan State? And it's not usually a question that I ask, but if you look at the history of head-to-head, especially with kids from Wisconsin who are recruited by Wisconsin, Michigan State historically hasn't gotten that many of those kids, if any, who had that option. He says, absolutely, I'm very open to it. And I think he had a visit, he had a couple visits he had already taken. I think he had maybe one visit that he was yet to take. And when he was here, he felt it was the right fit, and he chose not to take that last visit, and he committed here. So those doctors helped me land a pretty good player.
Yeah, so it was a coup that worked out.
Yeah, that worked out. Yeah, the pain and suffering of the night before, thank goodness, worked out for us because he's been an awfully good player for us. Other questions? The other thing I'm going to mention to you, I know this stuff doesn't usually get a lot of publicity, but like this group is a really good group. Work hard, come to work every day, compete hard. Deals with the highs and lows, even with some of the inexperience on our team, but also take care of business away from the rink. The semester that we finished up, we had a 3.22 grade point average, which is I think the best ever here, and I wouldn't have made the team based on that. Wouldn't have fit in. And we had one guy, Hiroshi, who just goes about his business every day, got a 4 point. So that's I congratulated those guys because that was a heck of a job.
One
So,
more thing about Wisconsin, they do seem to have a potential for like better offense than they did last year with Cunnin and Frederick, freshman, and Cameron Hughes and Bessie. So that's something that you're going to be challenged by.
oh, no doubt. I think that their team is growing as a team, and they added Fredericks up front. He's a good player, and he's a dangerous player. But I think those other guys that you mentioned, those are returning players, and they just have more experience. So when you gain more experience, there's more confidence, there's more poise around the net. Their power play's been good so far. Their penalty killing has been good so far. I think they have good depth in their lines. So, as I mentioned, I think they're a better team this year. I think they're definitely going to be a better offensive team than they were a year ago, because I still think they were skilled a year ago, but now they have all those players you mentioned have more experience, and Kunin will be coming from the World Juniors. He's out there playing, and he'll play. Yeah, I think he'll play. If they were overseas, it might be more challenging, but depending upon the U.S. will play on Thursday, either in the gold medal or the bronze medal game, and so I imagine he'll be on a flight. He's only coming from Toronto, so it's not a long flight. He'll be on a flight. I don't know what time those games are, but I would imagine he'll be in town by game time on Friday, I would expect.
BU's got 5 or 6, 7 guys there. They play Thursday night.
Oh, well, they're going to be short five guys.
Thursday and Saturday.
Yeah, they'll be ready by Saturday, but that's not going to happen Friday. Yeah, that's one of the downsides of having good players in demand. Got a schedule.
Have you watched much of the World Juniors?
Yeah, I've watched a fair bit. I've tried to take in some of the World Juniors, some of the outdoor hockey, some of the bowl games. That was a pretty entertaining Rose Bowl game last night.
Did you watch the Centennial?
I did. I didn't watch. Actually, I thought the first 2 periods were kind of dull, but the third period was explosive, and it was fun to watch. A lot of good plays and a lot of excitement and a nice comeback. And would have liked to seen the Red Wings win the game, but Austin Matthews made some big plays at big moments.
That's a question I have for you, since both of them jumped out of junior and into the NHL. If you were to pick one to be a better college hockey player, McDavid or Matthews?
Oh boy, they're both awfully good. I'd love to have both players, but if you're telling me I have to pick one,
You have to pick one, not that the other both
yeah,
play college hockey.
yeah,
but only
I'd probably take McDavid just because his speed is just off the charts, and what he does at that speed with his hands and the puck are pretty amazing. So, I mean, we're kind of splitting hairs here. But, if he wasn't available, I would gladly take the other guy in college hockey, too. I do, yeah. He scored late. Yeah, he placed it in like that much room and got off his stick in no time. So, yeah, it was, a lot of good American players out there. And they're fun to watch, and it's fun to see the impact that guys are making in the NHL, and getting a lot of talk about it. And what's fun about it is it's about speed and skill. So people are talking about the game from a speed and skill perspective. So I think that's a real positive for the game too.